KARN news time is 8:13, and the House has passed a bill that has been co-sponsored by Representative Tim Griffin, and many say Democrats and Republicans are alike are joining to oppose one of the most important features of the president's new deficit reduction plan. This is that independent board that could make sweeping cuts in the growth of Medicare spending, but it takes away some of the congressional spending power, and that bothers a lot of those in Congress, that an independent board could have essentially more power than all of the Congress. Is that fair, Representative Griffin, my description?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're talking about what a lot of us call the IPAB, the Independent Payment Advisory Board, and what it basically does, it instead of reforming Medicare to save it for the next generation, the president's plan just leaves it as it is, which sends it to bankruptcy. So they had to find a way to make cuts when things get tight on the money, and the president established this IPAB, and what it does is it says, we're not going to reform Medicare to make it last. We're just going to wait till it runs out, and then we got to have somebody to decide where the cuts come, where they go. So we're going to have this unelected board of appointees, and they're going to decide where it's cut. And like you said, there are not a ton, but there are some Democrats that are opposed to it. Certainly Republicans are opposed to it. And we're doing everything we can to get legislation through that will repeal that part of Obamacare or the president's health care law. I've certainly voted to repeal the whole thing and go down a different path with health care reform. But this is an important part of it. And what it exposes is the fact that the president's health care law doesn't reform Medicare to save it, and that's why he had to enact this deal, which will make severe cuts in Medicare when the time comes. And what we're saying is, hey, we need to reform it so that it's not a matter of cutting to save it. We need to change the way it works so that we never need something like this. But if you're going to have something like this, it doesn't need to be unelected appointees or unelected bureaucrats, or whatever you want to call it. So that's pretty much what this fight is over.
Now, the passage of this bill would repeal just that portion of the president's health care plan, correct?
That is correct, and somebody listening might say, well, why aren't you repealing more of it, or why aren't you repealing all of it? Well, we voted on that, and we've already done that. Now, obviously, a bill is not a law. We passed a bill in the House to repeal the whole thing.
Well, and we've seen this before. We've seen this before where the House has passed a bill and it gets over to the Senate and goes nowhere.
Yeah, and that's what happened to ours. Now, to give them a little bit of credit, the Senate actually did allow a vote on it, which was better than what's happened with a lot of our bills that we've sent over there. You know, we've passed about, I don't have the exact number, I think it's up to something like 28 jobs bills that we've sent to the Senate that have gone nowhere. They just sort of, we like to say in the vernacular that they're piling up like cordwood. But in any event, yeah, I mean, so this is something that will easily get, the House easily supports it, but the Senate and the White House obviously are different part of the equation, and but I think it's important, and as more people get educated on IPAB, they start to learn that, wait a minute, this is going to cut reimbursements even more to doctors. You know what happens then? And everybody agrees on this. Fewer and fewer doctors take Medicare. So what happens is my mother, who's on Medicare, picks up the phone, doctors just say, you know what, I'm not going to take it anymore. And then what do you got? You got a lot of people on Medicare looking for doctors, and they can't find a doctor, or they can't find a doctor they want. So we got to. This is not the road we need to be going down. And anyway.
How do you think it'll fare in the Senate?
Well, that's a good question. What I'm worried about in the Senate is not getting a majority. I think there's probably a majority there. The question is whether the majority leader is going to, the Democrat majority leader, Harry Reid, whether he'll let it come to a vote. That's the issue with a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff, we've got some Democrats on board, not a ton, but a few, that if we could get it to the floor for an up or down vote, we could win that fight. But Harry Reid knows that, so on issue after issue, he won't ever let it come up. And that's what, that's what we'll just have to wait and see.
AARP, the aged folks, big lobby in Congress, they are a little leery of this as well.
Well, they ought to be more than a little leery. And I tell you what, and I've told my friends, the AARP, they need to get on board with some significant reforms, or 10 years from now, 8 years from now, we all are going to be faced with a fiscal disaster on the Medicare front. We need to, the good thing, Bob, is that we've got time to fix it now. But it's just like anything else in life. The closer you get to the cliff, the fewer options you got.
All right, Congressman, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you very, very much.
U.S. Representative Tim Griffin from the 2nd Congressional District in Arkansas.